Hello guys, landing page is one thing that we all have to build at some point. So today we are going to be building a landing page using ReactJS, TailwindCSS, and SwiperJS. Alright, so today we are going to be building a landing page using TailwindCSS. TailwindCSS simply provides us with utility classes that we can use in our application. So it's kind of writing, excuse me, it's kind of writing your CSS inside your HTML. But it takes care of we having to declare various classes in every part of our application. So the Tailwind CSS team has already pre-written many of, in fact, all of the classes that we would be using. So all we have to do is pick the classes that we need, add them to our application, and then it will just work like that. So what does this do for us? This gives us enough space or enough room or saves us the time of having to go create several classes, having to think of names to give these classes so that they don't clash with each other and then writing them. So a single line of Tailwind CSS here could be 6 lines of vanilla CSS. Tailwind takes care of all these things for us. Now, if you come to tailwindcss.com, this is the Tailwind CSS landing page. Where I go, you can see an example of where Tailwind CSS is being used here on the right. You see examples of the classes that is being provided out of the box by Tailwind CSS, and then some other stuff. But what we are going to do is we are going to go to docs. We actually want to go to the installation. So I'm just going to click on docs, and then it takes me straight to the installation side. And then to install Tailwind CSS, you have these commands here to run. If you scroll down a bit. But before we do that, let's quickly bootstrap a React application using Fit. So I'm going to go to my terminal, and then I'm going to run. I'm in my desktop. If you look at my terminal, I'm in my desktop. I'm going to run yarn create Fit. So I'm going to use Fit. I can pass the name of the project, so I'm going to use Fit. So I hit enter. I don't need to install anything to use that. So it's going to ask me what is the name of my project. I'm going to call it Coffee Lab. And then it's going to ask me what am I using. I'm using React. And it's asking me if I'm using JavaScript, TypeScript, and the rest. I'm going to simply use JavaScript, just a simple application. So he has created a Coffee Lab folder for me, and he said I should go into it by saying cd Coffee Lab. So I'm inside the Coffee Lab, and I need to run to a command, which is simply yarn, which simply means yarn install. So I run that, and then installs the whole application setup for me. All right, so the application is done installing. Now I can open up in my VS Code by typing code, period, or dot, and enter. Now it has created all these files for me. Before we come back to this file, let's quickly add Tailwind to this application. So if we go back to the Tailwind docs, we have to run. Now this is npm install dash the Tailwind CSS. But what we are going to do, we are going to be using yarn. So we are going to say yarn install instead of yarn add instead of Tailwind npm. So let me just use this terminal from here again. So yarn. Okay, let me yarn add dash d Tailwind CSS. Our installation is done. Some other things I need to add. Remember, we are using Fit for this. So let's just add this into a couple of packages to dash d. So we are installing post CSS and also installing auto prefixer. So like I said, we are using Fit. So if I go back to the docs and I type here, we're just installing for normal page. So let's say I type Fit here. So let me close it. If you want to search for the documentation, you just click on the search bar here. This modal comes. So if I type Fit, so you see it says install Tailwind CSS with Fit. If I go back, if I scroll down, you see we have already done this part. But then for here, we need to install all these guys here. So that is why I have to come back and install post CSS and auto prefixer. So if we go back to our terminal and we hit enter. All right, so we have finished installing that. One other thing we need to run is I go to npx tailwind css init -p. So this will come up with like files for us to be able to configure Tailwind CSS and set up some other stuff. Press enter. All right, so we have a file has been created for us, 2 files. We have one tailwind.config.cjs, postcss.config.cjs. So this can also be .js, or in our case here it's .cjs. So in our VS Code now we have Tailwind. You see here we have the things we can add here. We have contents, whatever where is our files located, those things that we want Tailwind to take care of. And then we have the theming. We can extend theming. We can add colors. We can just, anything we want to change. If we don't want to use the default one coming from Tailwind CSS, we can then come here and change it. Then we have the plugins where we have some Tailwind plugin that we want to use. We can come back here and pass them in. So if we go back to the Tailwind CSS docs, in the contents part, if I scroll down a bit, we then have to add this. Remember we are using, so we now copy this and paste it inside the contents part. So if we go to the content, paste this here. So with this now, we have set up this particular site. Now there's another thing we need to do. So let's go back to our project. Let's go into the source folder. We don't know the app.css, so we're just going to delete that. Let's go to app.jsx and just let's remove everything here. All right, so let's go to the index.css, and I'm going to also I'll remove everything here also. I remove it. I will just do this one so that it's generic everywhere. I'm going to say margin of 0, padding of. I don't need to write. You can always do all these things with your Tailwind, but I prefer to just have it once like this, and then it applies to all of them. I'm repeating it. And then what else? Box sizing. Let's give it a box sizing for that box. So we'll leave it this way. Now, one other thing you need to do is to go back to your Tailwind docs. Now, if we scroll down on the Tailwind doc, we have to go to our index.css, and we are going to copy this. The at Tailwind base, at Tailwind components, at Tailwind utility. We'll copy all this. So you can just click here to copy, and then we'll come here at the top and we'll paste it. So this is going to import everything for us. At Tailwind, the base classes, the components, the utilities. We have everything that we need here. So with this now, we are set up to use Tailwind CSS or our application. So if I go back to the app.jsx here, if I go back to the app.jsx here, and let me just add hello here. So let me run, open up my VS Code terminal. So to open it up, just click on terminal, click on new terminal. But another way is just to press Ctrl J. That will open it up. So I'm going to close this debug, and I'm going to switch to git bash. All right, so to start it up, if you look at our scripts, go to package.json. Look at our script here. We have 3 scripts: dev, build, and preview. So if we say yarn dev or yarn run dev, then we have is our development server. Then yarn build to build yarn preview. All right, let's go back to app.jsx and let's pull up the terminal again by pressing Ctrl J. Run yarn dev, and then so we have our server running on port 5173. So if you don't like the port, you can kill the terminal by pressing Ctrl C. You can always pass a port to fit by saying yarn dev dash ports. What's the number? Started port 3000. So this is going to take that argument, and our server is now running on port 3000. All right, so let's go back to a browser and let's open localhost 3000. We have hello on the page. All right, so let's look at let's apply a simple Tailwind class and see if it works. So I'm going to put this like this. All right. So let's apply a simple color. So if I say in Tailwind, like I said earlier, you have pre-written classes that you just apply to your text or to your div or whatever, to your HTML element. So I'm going to say text, which is text dash, I'm going to say green dash 100. If I save now, you notice this color kind of fades away. So this dash 100, if you look at when I hover on it, it kind of shows me the style that I'm applying, which is I'm applying. There's a style that's written by the Tailwind team called that with the name of text dash green 100, and then this is the color that it has, and then the 100 is the opacity that I'm passing to it. So let me increase the opacity to 700. It should show better. Now it shows better like this. Now, when you want to use Tailwind CSS, there is an extension a VS Code extension that you install that will make it easier for you. So you don't have to keep trying to remember all the classes. So I've enlarged this. So if you go to extensions, you click on extensions, you type in Tailwind CSS intellisense. You'll see this particular one here. Click on it. So you see Tailwind CSS intellisense. Then you click on install. So install this and it's enabled globally. So each time it helps out with suggestions for you for your Tailwind classes and all that. So install it, and let's go back to the application. So this is equivalent. Let's say we have in our CSS or your CSS, this test dash green dash 700. Let's assume this is not a Tailwind project, and you just have something like in your class name, you give it you say title, for example. This is your own class name that you have given here. Then you go back to your CSS and you say dot. So you're selecting the class dot title, and you see that the color is green. So if I save now, you notice the color changes to green. So instead of me having to come back and define classes like this in various places in my application or IDs or whatever, Tailwind, I'm going to remove this. Tailwind automatically has these things in for me written. So all I have to say is just text. Sorry. All I have to say is just text, which simply means that I'm applying this to text dash. What is the color? I'm going to say green again. And then what is the opacity? Let me say 500 this time around. And then you have it. So this is, if I want it to be background, all I have to say is bg dash green dash 500, and then it becomes the background. So these are various classes. There are many various classes I can use, and they are not far-fetched. All you have to do is, if you know your CSS, then you can always use this. And even if you don't know what is the equivalent in Tailwind, you can always just come to the Tailwind docs. Just anything you type here, very, very easy for you to find what you are looking for. So let's say I'm looking for, what should I for? Border. I don't know how to use border. I can just type border. I just type border here. Oh, sorry, I can't spell border. Border. And then you see different border. So let's say border color. I just click on these, and then they are going to show me. If you look at this place, um, several ways I can write my border. So when I say something like border black, it's simply border dash color. So the doc shows you the class and shows you the CSS equivalent of that particular class. So you can use that. Let's say I want to see, what else can I say? Show. Let's say background. Let's say background image. So if I click on that now, and then it shows me different. So if I have something like bg dash none, it simply means background image none. Bg dash gradient dash 2 dash t. So there are so many ways that you can use these, and I'll show you examples below as you use them. Maybe you want to use. I'm going to stop here, but I'm just showing that you can always come back here and search, and anytime you want to use something that you don't know, you can always come back here and search for it. All right, so let's go back here, and then that is that. So that is for color. There are other ones too that you can use. But what I want to do is that I want to have my own color for the landing page that I'm going to build. But I don't want to keep using these colors that Tailwind has provided for me. I'm just going to go into the themes, the configuration file. So if I go to here, I'm going to pass in the colors that I want to use. So I can customize it. And it's the same thing for everything. You can customize the color. But one thing you should know is that once I put my own color here, the other colors from the Tailwind will not be working for me. So if I put my own color now, if I call something like the green I called now, is not going to work because it's going to be reading from what I've extended here. So I want to customize my colors. I want to put in my own colors. But one thing you should know is that once I pass in colors here, those colors that are coming from Tailwind on its own, for example, this green, let me show you this again. These green colors and all that, and BG dash green or whatever, they will not apply anymore. So Tailwind will be taking the colors from here, from the one I'm going to pass here. So if whatever class I'm passing is not here, it's not going to get applied. For example, I pass it. These are the colors I want to use. So now I saved, you notice that the color we already have went out. So I'm going to have a color of, I'm calling it white. I have another color called orange. I have another one called dark gray, and I have another one light and light 100, brown and red. You can change the names to whatever you want. These are just the names I want to change. I want to use for my own. Now, if you notice when I saved, everything went away. But if I go back to my app.js now I don't have any. All right, so to build the navbar, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go inside the source folder. I'll right click on new folder. I'm going to create a folder called components. Now, this is a very simple application, just a landing page. So it's not going to take much file setup. So I'm going to say, I'll click on new file. Inside the components, I click on new file. Just going to call it navbar.jsx. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to export a file called navbar, a component called navbar. So let me go to the app.jsx. I'm going to pick that up. I'm going to render that there. So I'm going to say that we need navbar here. We should automatically import itself. It doesn't import. We are using named component, so we are going to say import navbar from /component/navbar. So we have that there. I can actually remove this background here that I have. I don't really need that. I'll leave it and come back and see probably if I'm using for anything. So one thing I need to do is to make sure that we can see both screen at once. So let's start with that. So let's give a class name. I think this is too small. Okay, so we have a class. We're going to say width is full. So that is take up the whole width. One thing I need to do in my CSS, I can actually do it from my Tailwind here, but I just want to do it from here. So I don't have to keep doing it everywhere. I'm going to set a max width. So I'm going to say the max width is 1440 pixels. So I don't care. I don't have to come here and be setting max width from my Tailwind classes all the time. So I'm going to say the width is full, take up everything. I'm going to give it a background of light. Remember our, let me expand this actually. Look at this place. You see this color here, light. So I'm going to say background of light, and I'm going to give it a height. So I can say height. You see the Tailwind IntelliSense that we installed before is suggesting these guys for me. So I can say 7. But this is not what I'm going to use. So if I go back here now, if I check, now you see that the little background here changed and the height is 7. What I want to do is that I want to give it my own. So if I hover on this now, it says the height, if you look at the H-7 is 1.75 rem, 20 pixels. But let's say I want to pass in my own styling. How do I do that? I can just put a square bracket like this. And I say 8 pixels. So I want it to have a height of 8 pixels. So that is how you do. Let's say you have your own. Let's say in this width, you don't want to use width dash full. You can just pass a square bracket and say maybe 10 rem or 10 pixels or 20 cents, whatever you want to use. So if you have your own custom style you want to use, you can just pass it like that. So I'm going to leave this one. And I'm going to leave this guy at 80 pixels. So the height is 80 pixels. Now I'm going to go here. I'm going to create another div. So this particular div right now is the div that contains the nav items are inside. But I want to have another div that is going to be as a div, and it's going to have class name. It's going to be flex. So simply type in flex is the same thing as saying display flex. So I'm going to say flex, and I'm going to say justify. See the IntelliSense again between. So justify between. If I hover on it, it simply is justify content space between. So if I say justify around, it simply justify content space around. So you can see how easy it is for us to actually use this and style this application. Items should be in the center, which is the same thing as you saying align items center. And I want it to take up the whole width for the height, so I want to take up the whole height. And I'm also going to give it a padding to the left and the right side, which is going to be px-4. So px is the x-axis, which is the horizontal. So if you say py, that is the y-axis, the vertical. So in this px here, we are simply saying padding left and padding right. They should have 4. Padding right, padding. So if I hover on it now, if you see what I'm saying. Padding left 1 rem, padding right 1 rem. So if I were to change it to py, it's going to be padding top 1 rem, padding bottom 1 rem. Same thing for margin mx or whatever. So if I want to do only the right side, I would be like pr, which is padding right. PL, padding left. So those are simple classes we're going to use. So this PX alone is simply padding left, padding right. Now inside here, I'm going to have my logo, but my logo is just going to be a text, simple H1 I'm going to use. And then inside the H1, I'm going to have an anchor. So I'll keep it like this. Let me give it classes. So I'm going to say class name. This is going to be flex, display flex. I'm going to say items should be in the center. And then I'm also going to say that I'm going to say text dash LG. So that is font size. If you just hover on it, you'll see the class. And then what else? I'm going to say underline. So I want the text to be underlined. And I'm also going to say underline offset. So I want to push the underline a bit down. So I'm going to say underline offset 8. And then I think that is it. Now here, this is just going to go to slash. Yeah, this is going to be Coffee Lab. Coffee Lab. So if I save now, let's take a look at our browser. Now we have Coffee Lab. If I may maximize this. Okay. One thing I don't like is that the font size the font weight is small. So I'm going to say font dash bold. So that is font weight. So you see, if I hover on it, it says font and weight. So if let's assume I don't know this before, I can just go to the documentation, Tailwind documentation. I will just type font dash weight, and it's going to show me how different ways I can write my font weight, and you can see that. So the documentation is very um, easy to navigate through to find whatever you're looking for to get it. So let me save this and let's take a look if it increases. Yeah, so I like this. This is enough. So that is Coffee Lab. So this is just like my logo or whatever. I don't have a particular logo. The other thing I need now are my links. But one thing I like to do is when I have a link, instead of coming here to be writing out the links one after the other, I like to create the link as an array. So I can say const nav links. So I can simply, loop through them once and write my code once, and then it applies to all of them, rather than writing one single line of code multiple times. Even if there is something I want to do here, like maybe I want to style a particular one differently, I can use a condition to check and then apply that particular style to that particular element. So I'm going to have an object here that's going to have a name, the link name. So I'm going to say this is going to be home. This is going to home. And where is it going to? It's going to go to slash. So this is what I'm just going to have. I'm going to have an object that has a name, and the name is going to be, let's say, cafe news. And then where is it going to? And it's going to slash cafe. Let me fill the rest of them. With this now, I have my links, my nav links. And then I have where they're going to. I have home, I have cafe news, I have news itself, and I have contact us. Let me change it to capital. So that is that. So with this now, I can go into my page here and then reuse them. All right, so they are going to be a UL, another list, and then let me give it a style. So I'm going to say class name. One thing we need to know is that Tailwind is, like I said earlier, is mobile first. And what we are designing now is not for mobile screen. We don't want these links to show on the mobile screen. So we are going to say hidden, which simply means that it is hidden. So we don't want to see them. But once we pass the small screen, if you look at our configuration, which is SM, once we get to MD, we want it to start showing. So right now, when we say hidden, it simply means display none. So I'm going to see, how do we now tell it that, okay, once you get to a tablet or your 768 pixel, it should start showing. We simply say MD flex, which simply means that when it gets to this media query here, if I hover on it, you see min width 768 pixels, we now say display flex. So at the time we were at this small screen here, don't display. But once you get here, then display. So we say display flex. So we say display flex, and we also say that the items should be centered. Now I want to create the LIs. So I'm going to loop now. I'm going to say nav links. So now I'm going to loop these elements and then render all these ones outside. So nav links dot map, and I want to destructure the elements inside. So I have name, and I have two, and then I'm going to return an li. So I'm going to say li, and inside the li, I'm going to give it a key. The key is simply going to be the name plus 2. The name plus 2. That is a key, and then inside it, each of them are going to have an anchor element that is going to have a href. Where is it going to? It's going to 2, and then inside here we are going to have the name. So we're going to say name. So I think that's it. And with this now, we have our links. So why I like to do mine like this is that if I want to update any of this link, I can just come here easily and change it, and I won't have to go back to the code. Or maybe I want to change where it's going to. It doesn't matter. I want to add more, I can just add it and then they just work. Rather than coming here to write this thing 4 times or 5 times or 2 times, whatever. And also when I want to use it in my mobile side, I will just reuse the array of objects instead of having to create everything again from scratch. One other thing, let's pass our classes. So we're going to say classes. We want them to not touch each other. So we can say, first of all, we can actually go here and give a gap. I will say gap of 2. So this, instead of using padding to give them spacing, we can just use a gap to do that. One small thing I want to add is the current page where we are. Even though this is not going to navigate anywhere because the links are not going anywhere. I want it that when you hover, let me add a hover color. So I'm going to say hover. And when you hover, I want the color to be text-orange. So when you hover on it. Well, let's figure out something first. Let's go back here. How are we going to be able to know the current route? So let's use a window property for that. Say const current link, the link that, or current route or whatever. Let me use route, current route, or path name, anything. Is going to be window location dot path name. So this is going to give us the current route or whatever the user is. Is the user in slash? Is it in slash cafe? Is it slash news or slash contact? And with this now, we can pass a different styling. How do we now use this our current route here. First of all, let's go back to here. I will now have to change this to be coily braces instead of just this. I'm going to take this out. I'm going to use template literals. I'm going to pass this on. If you hover, it should be like that. But one other thing is this. The text, what color is the text? What color is the text is going to be determined by the current route. So I'm going to say text hash, then I have the dollar sign and the curly braces. So this is going to be dynamic. I'm going to say if current route, if this is the current route, orange, then else, if that is not the current route, we're going to say brown. Okay. Now, so if you go back to our configuration, you see we have brown here and we have orange here. So if we are in that particular route, we want to see orange. If we are not, we want to see brown. So that is what we have here for our navigation bar. So if I were to go to the browser and I kind of refreshed, nothing is showing currently. What could be wrong? Let's find out. I'm looking at it. I think, yeah, the reason why it's not showing is because we don't want to display anything on mobile screen. So we need to increase the browser width because this it look like it's small. So let's open this up and then okay, we have this small thing here. Let me see. But on a smaller screen, we don't have it. Although I think I placed it in the wrong place in the div because even if we expand, they are not supposed to show below here. So let me find out. All right, so we now have our logo here, and then we have div. I'm sorry, our LIs, our links. Let's check the browser. If I go back to the browser now, we have them here. But let me refresh and see something. Oh, I didn't check. Before I do that, I didn't check anything here. I have to say if current route is equal to 2. Yeah, I wasn't checking for anything exactly, and that was why it wasn't working. So I have to check if current route is equal to 2, then you use orange, else brown. So if I save now, let's take a look browser. So if you look at it now, okay, here I'm in cafe news. If I click on home, I'm now in home. If I click on news, oh, click news, then the current route is news. Now, this is just for demonstration purposes because usually you should have something like React Router doing this navigation for you, and then you can check which one is it, and then passing your what's it called, your current route to it. But I'm just demonstrating it here. So that has been settled. What else do we need to do? We need to add some icons. So let's go back here. I think I should just pass a padding to this guy. So I'm going to say padding -2, which is padding everywhere. I want to pass a padding everywhere. So let me take a look. I think that's better. Or I might, let me just, oh my God. Let me undo. Let me just go here and increase this to 4. So gap of 4. So I think that's better. I can actually increase the font weight. So I can say font bold. Let me see what we got. Oh, I think that's too much. I'm just going to leave it for now like that. So let's now, if you know, like we have, if we go on a small screen, we won't be able to see this. If I minimize, if I shrink this, if I go to the mobile, I won't see anything. If I go to here, I won't see. Once I get to 700 or something, then this comes up, and then I can do the. But right now, let's just finish up first. Then we'll come back and add a mobile one. What we'll see on a mobile screen. What we'll see on a mobile screen. All right. So we need to install a package. Let me go back to my terminal, and I'm going to say add React dash icons. So I want to use React icons. All right, so the package is done installing. Let's go back to our page. So I'm going to import a couple of packages from React icons. Import. I'll say bs cat 3. So let me just say React dash icons slash bs. Import bs cat bs suit hat I guess, and then bs search. Yes, then I also want to import some other thing. Let me just do it right now. MD outline close from React icons slash MD. And then I need one more from, I think, FI menu from React icons / FI. All right, so I've imported these guys. Some of them I will use now. So let's go back to this particular div here. Yeah, so this is where we are. So after the UL, let's create another div. This div is going to have a class name of, first of all, it is hidden on mobile. We don't want to see it on mobile. And then from 768 pixels, we want to see it from tablet. And it has a gap, it's going to be displayed flex, and it has a gap of 6. Oh, I already said flex already, so there's no need to repeat it again. Gap of 6. Now inside here, I'm just going to have a couple of divs. For now, no styling for them. And I'm going to say this one should have BS search, yes, BS search. And then I'm going to create another one, another div, and this one is going to have BS suit hats. So that's like hats. That's like, what's it called? Wish list. So this is for searching, this is for wish list, but right now they'll not be doing anything. I'm gonna have another div. This one gonna have a class name of flex. Items is gonna be centered because this is my cards. I'm gonna have cards here. So I'm gonna have let's say BS cards, I guess. And then I'm gonna have gonna be the class name of text dash red. So I want the text to be red. It's gonna be 3. Okay, then finally I'm gonna have another div that's gonna have a class name of, so I want it to be rounded. I'm going to have an image here. So the image is going to have a source. I'll come back to the source on it. It's going to have a class name of width -7, height -7. The auth is just going to be an avatar, something like that, an avatar. So to get an image, I'm going to go to Unsplash, unsplash.com. Let's go and grab an image from there. Let's see man face or woman face or animal face, whatever you like. So which one am I going to use? I'm going to use this one. I'm going to use this one. So I'm not going to download this. Just come here, right click on copy image address. So I click on that. I go back to my page and I'm going to paste it as the source. So I paste now. I save, and if we go back to our page, we now have these. So we have the coffee lab, we have these links, then we have this about. I don't like the way these guys are, and I want this to be rounded, not squared. Then these cards, I don't like the way it's showing, so let's go back and fix that. So back here. So first of all, let's go back to the div that is containing everything, and we're going to say that the items should be centered. We don't want them to just, some are up, some are down. So we're going to say items that center. And to the image, let's make it round. So we're going to say rounded by 3 times extra large. So if we save now, I believe it should fix them. If you go back, yeah, so it fixes it so that everything is fine. So we now have a menu looking good here in our desktop. This is now rounded. This is, they are all great. One other thing we need to do right now is to fix the mobile part of it. So let me shrink this. This is the mobile. So let's go and fix that. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to create a div, and I'm also going to give it a padding right of 2. So what do I want to have here? First, for now, it's obvious we are going to have a close and an open and close. So let's go and create a state. Let's create a state to toggle our menu bar. We don't have it right now, but let's create a state. I'm going to say const is open, set is open is equal to use state. It's going to be false initially. So let me create a simple function here. Const handle is open. So this function is going to take care of toggling state. So once you click on it, it's going to say set is open. Let's say it is open like this. Set is open to, we are going to look whatever the previous state was. We're going to say set it to the opposite of whatever the previous state was. So that's what we're going to do. So let's go back now down here. We're going to say a conditional. If it's open, we want to render something. If it's not, we want to render something else. So if it's open, let me just put this like this for now. If it's open, what do we want to do? What we're going to do is we're going to say If it's open, we want to render MD outline close. And if it is what's it called? Closed, we want to render FI menu. So if I save, let's just take a look. I can't see anything. Oh, use state is not defined. Okay, so seems like I didn't import use state. Where is it? I didn't import use state. See, I've imported use state. Save now. Let's take a look. Clear this error. Remove this guy. So you see here we have the menu bar, but we didn't pass any on click function to, so we can't even click. So let me go here. So I'm going to say on click. Oh, sorry, on click, not complete. On click, we want to say handle is open. I'll just copy that and paste it here to the FI menu. So if I click now, it changes to the close icon. If I click again, so I'm just using that to toggle. So I can toggle is open, is closed using that. Now, let me shrink this a bit. Let's give a bit of styling to icon, class name. So the text color should be red, the font should be bold, the font size should be extra large, and the width should be, it has a width of 7. So I'm going to copy this and paste it for this guy too. So they have the same styling for this class name. All right, so we are done with that. Now what we need to do is when this is clicked, we want the menu to appear here. We want the menus to appear here, and then when it is clicked again, we want to remove it. So we're going to go down here and create another div. Now this div is going to render if it is open. So if it is open, that is the only time it renders. But I'm going to say and. So if it's not open, nothing is going to happen. So instead of writing twice, like writing like this, if it's open, do this. Else, if it's not open, do this. I'm just going to say if it's open, do this. There's no else. So if I use and, there's no need for else. I want to have a div. I'm going to have a div. Okay, I think I need to close this. So if it's open, the div is going to have a class name of the background is going to be bg dash light gray. So I just want to have a little color. And I'm just going to go copy everything in our URL before. I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to go put it in between this div. One thing I need to do is that I need to remove this hidden here, and I have to set it for this one. So it should be hidden on a large screen. So now if I click on this, you see it shows here, but now this is not how I want it to show though, but it shows. So I can change the direction by simply saying flex dash col, which simply means flex direction should be column. So if I save, now the flex direction is column. I don't think I want it to be in the center like that. So I think I'll change items to item start, and that will bring it down here. And then I need a little padding. So I'm going to go add a padding. Yeah, so I think this is better. So that is that. Now I also need to add in the icons. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to copy what we have for the icons above and change few things in their styling. So I'm going to copy this again. And then down here, I'm going to paste it. But then I'm going to make sure that it is hidden on the large screen from tablet going up. And then I want to see it is justify space between. So I now have this little styling here. I want to give it a little margin or margin top, so that it shifts down. Yeah. So I think I'll leave it like this for the mobile view. So when we are on if I click here now, it goes away. If I click on this, it comes back. So this is what I'm going to have on a what's it called again, mobile view. Now I don't think this thing can actually be seen like that, but you can play around with the colors and change to the color that you like. One other thing I need to do is that I need to set this to the position absolute, and then I need to set it to have a width of full. I want to take up the whole width, position absolute, and I want to give the parent element that contains everything to have a position of relative. So not required, relative. So that is that. Now we are done. If I enlarge this, we are done with the navigation. I forgot to make sure that this doesn't show on large screen. So what I need to do is I have to say MD hidden. So I think I will just move this one to this place. So that will take care of that. So if I go back now, it's gone. Now once you shrink, you get to a mobile screen, you have that. If I close this up, then it goes away, then it comes up. So we have a responsive navigation bar ready to go. Let's build the hero section of our application. So I'm going to go to the source folder. Into the source folder, I go to the components. I'm going to click on right click on new file. Let's call it hero.jsx. So I'm going to import React from React, and then I'm going to change this to hero. Export const hero. I have an arrow function here. I'm returning hero. One other thing I need to do is let me import this in the app.jsx. Go to the app.jsx. I'm going to say hero. So we want to import the hero component. Oh, say nav. Okay, yeah, hero. And this should be changed to hero. I don't know why it's that. So if I save and I go back to here, I see the little hero here. All right. So what do we want to do now that we have the heroes? Let's go back to the hero.jsx. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to give this a class of bg-light and a padding top pt of 10. So we'll take a look at that. We'll have, so it kind of has the same color as a navbar, so you won't really notice that, but it's extended a bit. Now, right here, so right here I'm going to have a div. It's going to have a class name. So it's going to be flex. It's going to have the items centered. So say centered, and but I want it to be that on a large screen, I want it to be of flex column, sorry, row. So I want it to be row. On a small screen, I want it to be of column. So I'm going to say flex dash col, which simply means column. But for my large screen, I'm going to say it should be of row. Then I'm going to say justify is between, which simply means justify content space between. Now I'm going to have two elements inside here. So the first one is going to be this. So I have a div that has a flex, display flex. Flex duration is column. Padding left and padding right is 4, which is simply one rem. And I have an h1 inside, which has a class name of text dash gray dash that dash gray. Font weight is bold. Text size, which is font size, is 3XL. And then on a large screen, I want the text size to be 6XL. And then on a medium screen, I want it to be 6XL. Then on a large screen, I want it to be 7XL. And I have a couple of break here to break it up. Then I have a paragraph that has a light color, has a font size of small, and a padding top and bottom of 4, which is simply one rem. Then if you go down, I have another div that has a button that simply says shop now, and another button that says our story. So both of these buttons are inside this div, and they are both displayed as flex. Item is centered. Margin top and bottom is 4, which is simply one rem. And the gap between these two buttons, the spacing between each of them is 4, which is simply one rem. All right. Now the first button has the text is white, the background is orange, and is rounded extra large. The padding all round, top, left, bottom, and right is 3, which is 0.75 rem. Then the button which is our story has a text of orange, and it has a border of 2. Then border color is orange, then it is rounded. Then if you hover on it, it has a background of orange and the text changes to white. Then it also has the same padding as the other one. So let's save and take a look at what we have. So we now have this here. You change the text to white and the background to orange. So we now have this. What we need to do now is we want to add an image here. So let's add that. So here we are going to add the image. So I'm going to say div. It's going to have a class name. First of all, it is going to be hidden on a small screen. So we don't want the image to show on a small screen. And then from 768 pixels, we want it to display block. I want the padding top and bottom to be 4. Yeah, I think then we'll have an image. I'm just going to say a coffee. So if you notice, I'm not really explaining these things like classes anymore that much because we have done the explanation in the beginning, and I believe by now when you look at it, you already know what it's doing. If there's anything I'm doing here that needs to be explained, obviously I'm going to explain that. But I'm just going to be saying one or two things about what they are doing. All right, so we need to get this image. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to add all the images that we will need in the assets part of this folder. So we go back to the Explorer, go to assets. I'm going to delete this, and then I'm going to add all the images that we need in the asset. So I've gone ahead to add, if you look at our assets, I've added about 5 images, I guess, that I'll be using throughout this application. So let's import the image that we'll be using here. So I'm going to say import, let's call it coffee from dot slash assets slash coffee. Let's say coffee dash one dot png. I think that's it, yeah. Coffee dash one dot png. Let me use a small letter. So if I save now and I go back here, I then can use it by saying coffee. So this image coffee is there. One other thing I need to add here is a drop shadow. So I'm going to show drop shadow of 2 extra. So if I save down and we check, then we have this here with this. There's this shadow around it that you might not really notice, but you can play around with the shadow and find out which one suits you well. Okay, so now we have this. We are not still done with our hero section. We need to add one more thing here so that our hero section is done. So let's go back to our VS Code. So outside of all, apart from the last div, we're going to create a section. Then this section is going to have a div inside, and then we're going to have, let us put to do here, to do rating. So we're going to add a rating there. So let's add 2 paragraphs here. So we have the first paragraph and then the second paragraph. So let's try this. Go back to the section, say class name. It's going to be flex, obviously, which simply means display flex. We're going to say the flex should be column, should be display column, this flex direction column, items, that center, padding top, let's say 4. Then about the elements, let's give them a gap of 4 too. We're going to say width is full, which is 100%, and justify is center. We want it to be centered. Let me close this guy. Centered. Or let's also actually give it a padding all around to be 4, padding top, padding bottom, padding top, padding bottom, padding right, padding left to be 4, which simply 1 rem. Justify center. Yeah. All right. So let's start the div. So say class name. Obviously, we still have our flex. See the same thing. It's still going to be column. Well, what else do we want to do here? Padding should still be 4. We want to say bg dash white. So we want the background to be white for this. I want it to be rounded, extra large. So we are creating this white background that has this curve around it. So if I were to save and I go back and check the browser, we can barely notice anything, but there's a little thing here. You cannot see anything exactly, but let's go back and add 1 or 2 things there. So back here, so first of all, I want our hero class to accept a prop, which is going to be called rating. Now we can just declare it here, but I just want it to be passed in from the app.jsx. So we have a prop called rating. So I'm going to go here and use it. So say rating out of overall 5 stars. So whatever the rating is that was passed down, we say out of overall 5 stars. So let's type this guy. We say class name of text dash light dash gray. I want it to be small, so text as small. Okay. Then for the second one, we say it should be rating for all local business. And the styling is the same, so I'm going to copy this and paste it here. So we have the same styling. So let me kind of take a look again at the browser. And you can, if you notice, we have this small here showing up. So it's showing up, and we can see that. Let me shrink this a bit. Now, if I go back to go to components, right click on new file, call it rating display, or whatever beta name you want to give it. We are just going to have it display our rating to us. Let's export React components here. I'm going to say import React from React, export rating display. with another function, then we are returning simply rating display. So this is going to accept a prop. The prop is going to be called rating. So now we have a child component, which is a hero, which also has another child component, which is a rating display. So why I'm creating this rating display is because I want to reuse this component somewhere else. So that I put it out so that I can just use it somewhere else. So let's import it in the heroes section. So I go back to the hero. So I'm going to say rating display. So I'm going to pass it a rating of rating. So I've passed the prop to it. All right. Now let's take a look if it shows on the browser. It shows and it simply says rating display. Now let's actually build out the rating component. So I'm going to go back here. I will give this an option to accept size. So you can pass a size. If you don't pass any size, we are defaulting to 1. So that is what this means. So we are accepting an optional size. If you pass it, fine. If you don't pass it, we are going to say that it is 1. So what do we want to do here? What I want to do is I'm going to change this to be React fragment. I'm going to loop. I'm going to convert whatever the rating is into an array. So I have a rating here. It can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 3, it can be 4, it can be 5. But I want to convert it into an array. So I'm going to say dot array. And what is that? Rating. So dot map. So what I've done is that I've taken whatever is there, which is 5, and I'm going to split it into an array that's going to contain 5 different elements. So that's what I've done here. And then I'm going to have an underscore and an index. So the underscore is standing for the current whatever element that is being looped over. Then the index is index of that element. So there's nothing here, it's just 5, and I'm not actually going to do anything with that. So I'm just going to say index, and I'm going to say I want you to return. Okay, I need to import this from React icon. So I'm going to say import md star okay, from React icons slash md. Okay, so go back here and say md star. Md star needs to have a key, so I'm going to say key is equal to index. So whatever the index is. So let's give it a class name. So class name. Now I'm going to make it dynamic. So it's going to be text dash orange. So I'm going to make it, the color is going to be orange. Font size of bold. Then you're going to have a text size of whatever size that was provided by any component that is calling it. So I'm going to pass a size of extra large. So if you pass 1, it's going to be simply extra large. If you pass 2, it's just going to be simply 2XL. If you pass 3, 3XL. So I think that's what we are going to have here. So we'll save now. Let's go back to the app.jsx and let's pass rating. So if you go to hero now, we're going to say that rating is equal to, let's say, 4. So if we save, let's take a look at the browser. It says 4 out of overall 5 star. Okay, let's check why it's not being rendered. Let's take the hero. Are we passing a prop? Yes, we are passing a prop. So what is wrong? Rating display is taking the prop. So looking at this, I think we have a bug. So I have this here. This shouldn't be here. So I'm going to remove it. It should be here. Yeah, here. So then let's remove this comma and let's check our page now. And then we have the 4 stars, but we don't want them to display like this. So let's give it a flex. Let's put it in a div and make it to be flexed direction. Let's add a div here now. Flex direction should be row. So let's say class name flex and then flex dash row. So with this now, it should be horizontally aligned. So yeah, so we are done with that. I think this is nice. All right, so we're going to move on to create the card section. I'm also going to create a simple swiping using SwiperJS. So let's get started. Now I want to do this one right from here. So I'm going to create a component, but I want to do the little styling right from here. So I want to do a little style right here in the app.jsx. file, then I'll move in what I feel I should move it out into another component. So I'm going to say section, and inside the section I'm going to have a div. I actually will have two divs. So I'm going to give this a class name. Say we're going to give it a background of light dash 100. So if you go back to our Tailwind configuration, we have a color that is called light dash 100. So we say background, which is bg dash light of 100. So that is what we want to have. And then for this one, we're going to have a class name of flex. I have two items inside, or we have two items inside. So we say flex items. We want it to be center. We want the flex direction to be column. So we want them stacked over each other. Then I think that's all. Right inside this div, we are going to have a h2 and a paragraph. So the h2 says our collections. The paragraph says what do you like to see today? What would you like to see today? So in a paragraph, in our H1, we have text dash text, which is the text color should be dark gray. The font weight should be bold. The text size, which is the font size should be large. It has a padding top and bottom of 3. Then on a large device, like from tablet upwards, we want the text size to be 6 XL. Then for the paragraph, we have text color to be light gray. Text should be small in size, and the margin bottom to be 4. So we want to push down the contents below. So if I check the browser now, if I save, if I scroll down, you see what we have says our collections. What would you like to see today? Remember, we have centered it when we did display flex text align center. So we have everything here in the center. Now, what else do we need to do? We are going to display. Let me remove this div. We are going to create a card. So I'll just say to do. And let's just say create a card. So I'm going to create a coffee card. But I don't want to do it right here. I want to create a component for it. So I can actually move this one to outside to that component. But why I'll just leave it like this. You can move it out there and have this one cleaned up, but I'm going to leave it here. Go to the components folder, right click, click on new file, and let's just call it coffee card.jsx. Okay, now we're going to create a simple functional component. So we're importing React from React, and then we're exporting a name component coffee card. So let me go back to the app.jsx and render it here. Let me just remove the to do. So I'm going to call it coffee card. So, and there's an import up above. So it's copy card likes. Let me quickly import React from React here. All right. So let's go back to the coffee card. What do we want to do here? Let's go back to our Explorer. Let's click on the source, right click on new folder. Let's call it data. So we just want to store some temporary data here that we use in place for the coffee. So click on the data, right click on new file, and you type coffee.js. So I've gone ahead to import all the images that we have, and then I created an array of coffees. So the coffee has an ID, a title, a rating, number of reviews, the image, the price, and a description. Now, some of them are just repetitive, so just take it like that. They are just dummy data that I'll be using for this demo. So I'm going to import them here. So I'm going to say import coffees from /data/coffee. So that's what we'll be working with. Now, I'm going to give this div a class name of flex. I'm going to give it a gap of 3, padding wide, padding top and bottom of 6. I'm going to say that the items should be aligned to the center. Justify should be between. Top of 6. I think that is what I will have for now. Now, this doesn't matter what you see. So if I go back here now, you see it simply says coffee card. But that's not what we want to do. So what we're going to do is that we'll go back here. Now, let's pretend that you are fetching this data from a remote source, maybe from an API. But normally you create a state, something like states, I'm sorry, so states set state is equals to use state. So you would have it like this. So for now, it's simply null. Let's quickly just do the things you will do. So use effect. And then we are going to pretend like we are fetching this from somewhere. We're going to pass an empty dependency array. We do not want it to re-render unless the page maybe refreshes. So what do we want to do? Let's just call setTime out here. And let's say after 2 seconds, we want to set state to be coffee. So after 2 seconds, we want to set state to be coffee. Now coming back here, let's render these guys. So what do we want to do? First of all, we want to say if, remember state is an array, if state dot length. So what this is simply checking, this double exclamation is making sure that if it is 0 or less than 0, it's going to throw false. From 1 upwards, it's going to be true. So if this is true, we want to do something. Let's say null for now. Else, we are going to return a div that's simply going to say loading. And let's just start the loading class a little bit. So I'm going to say it's going to be flex. Items is going to be centered. Justify should also be centered. And then we're going to give it a font weight of bold. And then we are going to say what else should be the color? Text dash orange should be the text color. So that is that. Now let's go back here. Now what we want to do here, we're going to say if we have something in state. So we say state.map. And then we are going to take out the coffee, each individual coffee, an index, and we are going to render out an element. Now, I could create the card here, but I don't want to create the card here. So let's just assume that in the future, we want to add some features to this application. We want to add like quantity. We want users to be able to update the quantity. If we add the card here, and let's say we add a quantity state here, if a user begins to type in one of the cards, it is going to apply that to all the other cards. So what we're going to do is that we're going to create another component right inside this file, then we'll pass it here. So that will solve that problem. So I'm going to call here const card, and it's just another React component, but we're not creating a new file for it. So for now, I'm going to say return null. I'll say return null. So I'll render it here. So if there's something in, they just render card. So we're going to pass a key to be index. So that is done. Now, what do we want to do to the card? We are going to pass the coffee. So I'm going to just destructure everything here by saying coffee, and I pass everything from here. So I could say coffee equal to, and I just say coffee. So it's the same thing. But I'm using the spread operator to just do that once. And then in the coffee, I'm going to extract everything I need. I have title, image, description. Cannot spell description. I think I have price, rating, reviews. I don't know what else I have. I'm going to return a div that has a padding left and right of 2, padding top and bottom of 10, and its position relative, which is full, background is light dash 100. And what do I want to do with this card? Let's just quickly create out a simple card. I'm just going to paste our card size. What are we doing here? So we have a parent div that has a background of white and is rounded, a little padding, has a display of flex, flex direction of column, padding left and right of 10. We have our image here, the parent div displayed as absolute because of how we want to display the image. We say top of 1, left of 50%. Then the div that contains the image itself, we gave it a class name of position relative, the class is position relative. The width is 20, the height is 20, so we gave it the same width and height. Then we gave it a negative left because we want it to be in the center. So we gave it a negative left of 50%. And then we have our image, is coming from our prop. Then we just gave the title to be the alt tag. And then we give it a class name of width is full, height is auto, object is contained. Then we just have our h1 that has the title and its classes. I have a paragraph that has a description. Then below here we have the rating. So we are going. Let me import this. Import the rating, and then we are passing the rating. Whatever rating was passed here, we are passing it. Then we also have another paragraph that has the reviews, another paragraph that has the prices. Then we have a button that simply says shop now. So if I save this now, let's take a look at our browser. So if I scroll down, now, we have a card. This is the images. These are the images. And then we have a button that simply says shop now. Now, I don't like the way this guy is displayed, but I know why. And then we now have this horizontal scroll, which is offsetting our page. Now, we don't want to do that. But the thing is, we want to use SwiperJS to navigate through this uh, our slide. So because of that, we need to now install SwiperJS and set it up so we can be sliding like carousel to the left, to the right, and all that. And that will fix up this problem that we have here. So let's go to the examiner and let's say yarn add swiper, just yarn add swiper. Now SwiperJS has done installing. If I go back here, I'm going to type swiperjs.com/react because we are using React. So if you go there, if you look at what we need to do, we just need to import swiper and swiper slide. We also need to import swiper.css. Then we pass in some props, space between slides per view. How many slides do we want to show per view? What's going to happen on slide change? What do you want to do on swiper? And then we pass the swipers in a slide, in the swiper slide. And with this, we are set up. But let's just see what we are going to do. There are many customizations. SwiperJS is very easy to use. So let's go back to our React application. So I'm going to import, like they said. So I'm going to go up here. So what I'm doing is I'm importing swiper slide from swiper/react. I'm also importing autoplay, navigation, and pagination from swiper. I want our slide to automatically slide by itself, and I want us to be able to click on the arrows for it to go to the left or to the right or whatever. And then also the dots. I want us to have that. So I have that. Now I have imported swiper CSS. I also need to import the navigational CSS and also the pagination CSS. So you do that too for yours. Now we need to set up this to work. So let's go back here. Let's go back to this particular side where we are rendering our card. So after our div, right after our div, let's first of all take a look at the SwiperJS docs one more time. So if you go to SwiperJS, we see that in SwiperJS, you have a swiper. Then this swiper takes in some children, which are the swiper slides. So first of all, we need this swiper before we then pass in the swiper slides into it. So with this swiper, we can be able to configure a lot of things that we want for our carousels to have. So let's go back to our what's it called, coffee cart.js. Now, one thing I want to make sure that happens is that I don't want to display anything when we have nothing in state. Remember, we are using set timeout. So let's change this to 1 second. So after 1 second, we pass in the coffee into state. So let's make sure that when there is nothing in state, we have a loading. It just says loading. So I'm going to say state.length. So what this exclamation mark is doing is it's making sure that this is the state, which is the array, is greater than 0. We use this to convert items to boolean. So it's going to check if this is greater than 0. If the array length is greater than 0, it's going to be true, else it's going to be false. So if this is greater than 0, we want to have our swiper here, module here. So let me say null for now. Else, we are going to have a div, just like we had earlier. Let's see, div. And let's give it a class name of text-align, which is center. So we'll say text center. A font weight of bold, which is font bold. And what else do we want to say? Text color, which is text-orange. And then we want to say uppercase, which is text transform uppercase, say loading. So this is what we want to do. When we have nothing, we want to have it's a loading. So let me add dot. And then when we have something, we want to have our swiper. But before I do that, let me add a dynamic style here. So go back to this div, the parent div, line 24. Then change this to coily and then add template literal. Now this justify dash between, we want to make it dynamic. So we are going to remove the between and we are going to say $sign curly braces. So what we're going to do is if we have something in state, then we're going to say justify dash between. So we want to space them away. Then, but if we have nothing, we want to say justify center because we want our loading to be in the center. So I'm going to say justify, then we'll say if state.length, if something is in state, if it is true, then it's going to be justify between. So we say between. But if we have nothing, it's going to be centered. So we say justify by center. So with this now, we have that one settled. Now let's go back to line 29, which is where we have our states. What do we want to do? We are going to add our swiper. If I save, now If you take a look at this play, we have the modules, the navigation modules, the pagination, and the autoplay. So this would help us to for navigation, pagination, and also autoplay. Autoplay in the sense that we don't want to just wait for someone to click on either an arrow or the dots before our carousel moves. We want it to automatically move on its own. So once you come to the page, it's already moving on its own. Then we are saying that the loop should be true. So when it gets to the end of the slide, it restarts again. Then we say space between is 10, slice per view is 2. Now at this point, we are saying slice per view is 2, but we'll come back to fix this because we don't want the slice per view to be 2 at all screen. But for now, let's leave it like that. Navigation is true. Also play, we have a delay of 2.5 seconds. We say disable on interaction, true. Pagination is clickable, we say true. On slice change, you on your own maybe want to do something when it's slide change. You can do that from here on swiper, but for me, I don't want to do anything. Now, if you remember on this, if I go back to the SwiperJS docs now, I have to pass in the swiper slice, which are like the children of this swiper. So if I go back now, I have to loop over it. So for us to do that now, we have to pass in curly braces and say state dot map. Remember, at this point, there's something in state. If there's nothing in state, we'll find ourselves here. So it's a state dot map, and then we're going to have coffee. We're going to have the index, and we then are going to return the swiper slide. Now the swiper slide is going to take a key index plus coffee dot title. So we are passing the coffee title, and then inside here we are going to have the card, and the card is going to take a prop of coffee, and the card closes here. So if we then have to go back and remove this one here, but we don't need it anymore, so I'm going to remove that. If I save now, let's take a look at our browser and see what we got. Okay, so we now have two items because we said 2 slides per view. Let me refresh this. Scroll down a bit. Now, if I refresh, it shows loading, but you might not see it. So it's scrolling on its own. If I click, it also scrolls. If I come back to this doors, I click on it. Or is it? Yeah. But one thing is, I don't want, like I said, I don't want it to show 2 on every screen. So let's go back and fix that. So right now, on slides per view, it says 2. But let's make it dynamic. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to use this effect. Let's create a state called screen size. Cost screen size, set screen size. So this is going to give us the screen size of whatever. If you resize, we'll get that. And we are going to set it initially to window.screen.width. So we are just using the width actually. And I'm going to run a use effect. Use effect. And this use effect is going to take a simple dependency, which is just the screen size. So I pass it to the dependency array. Once it changes, we want to rerun. And we're going to have a function called handle resize, an arrow function. And what are we going to do? We are just simply going to set the screen size to a window, the screen, the width. So whenever it changes, we set the screen size to the current window.screen.width, which is going to give us it's the same thing as window.inner width. All right. Now we are going to call this function first of all. So we call handle resize. Or I think let's call it after we resize. So I'm going to say window dot add event listener. So what do we want to listen for? For the resize. So once you resize, we are going to call the handle resize function. So after we do this, let's call the handle resize function here, and then let's return a cleanup function. So say return window dot remove event listener, and we are going to remove the resize. And once we get there, we call this function again handle resize. So with this now, we would be able to know the screen width, whatever it is. So let's go back to the slice per view, and let's now see that if the screen size is less than 768, we know that we're in a mobile screen, so we are going to show 1 card per view. Now, if the screen size, let's check again, is greater or equal to 768, but also, which is and the screen size is less than 1024, so we know that we are on the tablet. We want to show 2 slides, else we want to show 3 slides. So with this now, we are able to display different number of slides based on the screen size. So if I save now and then we go take a look at the browser, so now it's showing 3 because this is larger than um, 768 and less than 1020. Sorry, this is greater than 1023. So if I were to inspect this, let me inspect. Let me click on this. I don't know why this guy doesn't change, but if I believe I click on this, it should take up. Yeah, it takes up the width. So if I resize now, it shows this. If I go back to 768, it shows 2. Let me decrease this a bit and then increase this. If I go to laptop, it shows 3 slides. If I go to what's it called? Tablet, it shows, oh, I need to scroll down. It shows only 2. If I go to mobile, it shows only 1. So that is that. Now, one thing I need to change here is this arrow. I don't like how the arrows are showing the colors and also the dots. So if I want to inspect this, I hover on the arrow and I right click on inspect. Still the same problem. I don't know why that works that way, but okay. So yeah, I see the classes here, which is swiper dash button dash previous, I believe, and then swiper dash button dash next. And I believe that they have an, if I click on it, I have after, which I need to target in my styling. Then for the dots, if I go to the dots and I right click and I click on inspect, I can see it has a class of swiper dash pagination dash bullets for the dots. So I'm going to target this in my index.css so that I can change how they look and make them uniform with the rest of our page. So I'm going to open this up again and then go back to our page. Let's go to index.css. Now, right here inside index.css, I am going to paste these styles. So we have the swiper button next and the prev. We have given them a color of the orange color we had earlier, and we are setting this to important to override their own style. Background color, the border radius is 50% of the height and width, which is the same 2rem, 2rem. Then the next, the after, swiper button next and prev after, I'm giving it the font size of 1rem and a font weight of 700. Then the dots, which is the bullet, which has a class of swiper dash pagination dash bullet. I'm giving a background color of the orange and a font size of 4rem. So if I save the file and we take a look at the browser, we now have a this arrow looking like this, and then we have the dots with the background color of orange now. So with this now, we are ready to go. We are done with our carousel. All right, so we are going to go back and build the other section of our application. So let's go back to the app.jsx. Now for lack of better name, I'm just going to write this section here. We could take it out of this place, but I don't know what to call it right now. So I'm just going to say section. And then let me give it a class name. So we're going to pass classes. We have flex. To justify, it's going to be dash between. What else do we have? We say, oh, I didn't spell it correct. Justify dash between. That is background dash light dash 100. I'm going to say flex dash cool dash reverse. So this will be for small screen. But for tablets upwards, we're going to say flex dash row. So the small screen, we want it to be the position to be reversed, and then we also want it to be column. So right inside this section, we're going to have a div. This div is going to have a class of padding top, left, bottom, and right. And it's going to take a width of full, which typically is 100%. Now inside this particular div, we are going to have this. We're going to have h1. That's a class of text color, text dash dark gray, font weight of bold, font size of text dash LG, padding top and bottom of 3. On a medium screen, we want the text size to be 6 extra large. I want it to be capitalized. So we want first of each word to be in capital. Then we have a paragraph that have simply lorem ipsum inside. We have a text color of text dash gray, dash light dash gray, then a font size of small, padding top and bottom of 4, which simply is 1rem. Then we have a button that simply says view more. And that's a class name of background of orange, text of white, padding all round of 3, rounded, which is border radius, obviously, LG, padding left and right to be 4, the text transform is uppercase, margin top and right is 2, width is full, and then on the medium screen, the width is auto. Now, after this, I'm going to create another div, and this div is going to have a class name of padding, which is going to be 6, padding top, left, right, bottom 6, and it's going to take up the whole width. Now, this padding is going, this div is going to contain an image. So, yeah, I'm just going to go back to unsplash.com to grab an image, unsplash.com. So, I'm going to type coffee people, coffee, and search. So let's search. I think I didn't spell coffee correctly. Let me spell coffee correctly in the first place. Let's search again. Or can we see? Okay, I'm going to take this image. So I'm going to click on it. And then I'm going to right click and copy image address. So go back to my code now. I'm going to put that as source. So I go back to the, where is it? I think I should have alt tag. What should I call it? A cup of coffee. Let me give a class name to the image. So I have a class name of width of full, height is auto, but the height from medium screen going up is 80%. Object as sheet is cover, border radius is rounded as MD, and we have overflow hidden. I still don't want to keep interpreting what these things means. You can just hover on them to find out what the class is. So object that cover here is object that sheet, rounded here is border radius 0.375 rem. You can always hover on it to find out what that class actually does. I don't know, I'm not feeling the need to keep explaining anymore. So if we save now, let's go back to our browser and find out what we now have. If I look, if we scroll down a bit, let me just refresh this page. So if we scroll down now, we now have this one that says order your favorite coffee, and then we have the paragraph, the button, and this. Oh, what did I click on? Wow. Let me open up again. And this is loading. It's done loading. Okay, so this is what we have. Now we have this section ready to go. All right, now, so let's move on to the next part, which is creating our newsletter. Let's go back to the components here, and I'll just create a new file called newsletter.jsx. We have so many components right now. So we're going to export const newsletter, and for now, we're just returning a simple div. So let's go back to app.jsx and import that. So after the section, we're going to say newsletter. So we now have that. Let's go back to our newsletter. Let's give it a class name. First of all, say display flex, align items to the center, which is simply items at center. We're going to give it a gap of 8 between the elements that we are going to put inside here. We're going to say padding of 4, background is white. And we're also going to say that the flex direction should be column. But one thing we need to do is from medium screen going upwards, the flat direction should be row. All right. And then we are going to remove this guy. We have the first div. So now inside this div, we're going to have a div here that is hidden on small screen. So on small screen, this particular div is hidden. And on large screen, we have display block, padding of 4, top, right, left, and bottom, and the width of full. And we have an image. This image has a class name. The width is 80, which is simply 20 rem. The height is auto. The margin is auto. On medium screen, the height is 100%. I guess we don't need this if we are not displaying this on a small screen. The object dash fit is cover, rounded MD, which is simply border radius. And then the overflow is hidden. So let's import an image here that we use. Using imports, let's call it coffee. Again, let's call it coffee 4. From $assets/coffee -4.png. So let's say coffee 4 with camel case. So our source is coffee 4, and our alt tag simply a coffee image. So this is what we now have. Let me go back to the browser. If I scroll down, you see a simple coffee image, cup of coffee, I guess. So we now see a cup of coffee image. So down outside that we now have another div. So this is going to have a class of flex, and it's going to be flex dash column. So flex direction is column, and you're going to have a gap of 3. And then we have another div here that's going to have a class name of width, which is full, and then on medium screen we want the width to be, I'm going to pass my own 80%. Remember, if you want to pass your own styling, you just put in this square bracket here. Now inside this div, I'm going to have each one and a paragraph. That's basically subscribe to our newsletter, and the paragraph says be the first to get our exclusive offers and latest news. Yeah, and then we have few styling for the H1. We want the color to be dark gray, font size to be bold, the text size to be extra large. On the medium screen, we want the text size to be 2 times extra large, and then on the large screen, we want it to be 3 times extra large. And margin top of 3 rem. So I want to use my own here. Same form for the paragraph, we have text color of light gray, font size of small, padding top and bottom of 4, which is 1 rem. Then we are going to have an input field. It's going to have a placeholder of enter your email, and it's of type text. It's going to have a class name. We have a class name of form input. So it's a form input. Px, which is padding right and left of 4, padding top and bottom of 3, rounded of extra large, which is full, border is 2, border color is orange, border width is 2, focus, when we focus, border is none, when we focus, the outline is also none. So if we now go back to our browser, something is wrong. What could that be? Terminating string. Let me refresh this and see if that's this. Okay, on terminating. Let me take a look. What is on terminating here? See this one? Okay, let me change this to text. Is that the problem? Let's see. Class. Oh, class name didn't close. I didn't close class name. Okay, so I think that has been solved. All right, so let's check. Okay, so we now have a simple image and a form, but I don't really like how spaced out that they are. So let me go back and let's see if we can fix that. So why are they spaced out so much? So let's reduce the gap to like 4. Let's see what we've got. Okay, and I think they are centered. Say align items to the start. We're just trying to find out why. Okay, okay. Okay, so I'm going to say that this guy should also be width of food. So take up the whole width, and I will also remove this one since this style is going to be not going to be applied. I say let's take a look and see if that solves the problem. Yeah, that solves the problem. So the second div was not taking up the whole width. So let's go back and add a subscribe button. So we have a button that says subscribe, has a background of orange, a text color of white, padding left, top, bottom right of 3. The border radius rounded, it is rounded. Text transform is uppercase, which is who margin top is 4. Let's take a look. And then we have our newsletter ready to go. Now let's create a footer. So I can close these guys up now. Let's create a footer. So let's go to the components, right click on new file and click footer, type footer.jsx. And let's export a footer component. So let's go back to the app.jsx and let's render it. So I'm going to say footer, and that is imported up here, footer. All right, so let's now go back to the footer. I'm going to create an array of objects. So here I call it socials. I have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Let me import the icons from React icons. So I'm going to say BS YouTube, BS Twitter, PS, Facebook, Facebook. What else do I have? PS, Instagram. So I've imported everything here from React icon slash BS, and they are called icon. Now you see, if you notice here, I started this icon name with a capital letter because they are going to be an icon there. I'm going to use them as icon, like a component. And then, just like I did in the URL part, in the links, I created this guy so I don't have to repeat one style 4 times or 5 times or so. So I will just look through these guys and use them. So let's go back and start. Let's start with our div first. So we have a div that has a width of full, px of 4, which is padding left, padding right. Item is displays flex. Align item is start. It has a gap of 4. The first direction is column. On a margin, a medium screen, we want the items to be displayed to the center. On a small screen, we want it to be at the start. On a medium screen, we also want it to be displayed flex direction of row. Then we have justify content space between margin top and right of 6. We have a div that has a class name of flex items slash center, and also has h1, just like our logo. If you go to our navbar, it's the same thing exactly we have there. So we are just reusing that, whatever we have in that logo here. We are going to create a UL just like we did for our links. We're going to say UL, and the UL is going to be a flex. Class name of flex. That's the class name of flex items by center and a gap of 4. And right inside here, we are going to loop. So first of all, we are going to check to make sure that our socials has something in it. So we are saying if it is greater than 0 and. So we are simply doing this. We don't want to do anything if there's nothing there. So if there's no else. So there's no else block. So if it is available, we're going to say socials dot map. And in this case, we want to extract everything out. Let me extract the name, the icon. I'm destructuring it out. All right, URL, and then so let's go out of the object and let's get our index. And then we want this to return an li. And each of the li has an anchor element that has a href of the URL that we passed in here, and a target of underscore blank, which simply means open a new tab when you click on it. It has a class name of text dash gray, that's dark dash gray, which is the color should be dark dash gray, and then we render the icon. So we are rendering it like it's a component. So if you look at it here, so that's why I had to have it written as the starting word is a capital letter, so that we can render it like this. So each of the icon will now render. So if I save now, I will go back to the page. If we scroll down, we now have our footer. We have our footer here, and then we have our socials. So if I click on YouTube, for example, it opens a new tab that takes me to youtube.com. So I've closed that up. So with this now, we have completed the whole page, and they are very, very responsive. So I've completed the whole page. We have set up the navbar, the hero section, the card section. Using SwiperJS, we have been able to create this beautiful layout here. Then we have our newsletter section and a very simple footer. You can add more things here. So let me refresh. Let me kind of resize this a little bit. So let's see if I refresh. Let me see. Scroll up. Oh, scroll. So here on a small screen, we have this nice layout. If you look at here on a small screen is 1. It's showing 1 by 1, just like we defined. One thing we could do in the card is on the button. Let's go to the button. If you go to the card, coffee card, the card itself, the button, let's say that if we're on a small screen, let's say the width should be full. And if you are from medium, let's say the width should be 50% of full width. So let's save that now. Let's check it out. Yeah. So if on a small screen now, the width is filled up. Then if you scroll down again, we have this nice order your favorite coffee, call to action, asking you to view more. Then we have our subscribe to our newsletter. Then we have our footer here. So we have been able to finish up this project. Then our navbar shows up very well. Yeah, so I hope you learned how to use Tailwind CSS, how to use SwiperJS, and also a few ways to write your React code. So please, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. Comment what you feel, what you think about the videos, like and share the video to reach so that we can be able to reach more people. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.